you. Thank you so much. It's wonderful to be here. I have never given a talk here before. In fact, I have never been in this auditorium before. But I live in Pasadena, and this is the historic place, at least for astronomers. As Dan said in the introduction, my expertise is planetary geology and volcanology. In fact, I started out as an astronomy student, just astronomy. But in my last year at college in England, I had the choice of taking a class in planetary geology. And I thought that class was really, really interesting. I decided to pursue that for my PhD. And my professor, who became my advisor, was a volcanologist. And I think that I really decided to pursue volcanology when it had been a couple of months into the class, and one day he didn't show up. And he sent a postdoc to give the class. And the postdoc said, well, you know, Mount Etna in Sicily erupted, and the professor had to go. And I thought, oh, this sounds really exciting. And certainly a lot warmer than freezing in observatories, which is, as a student, you know, what we did back then. You know, now, of course, it's all done remotely, so you can stay warm and have your coffee. But back then, it was different. So in this picture here, I am by the volcano called Yazur in Vanuatu. Vanuatu is an archipelago in the South Pacific. And in fact, this may look pretty wild, but actually that's a pretty safe type of eruption to observe. And I'm going to explain that a little bit more. So I'll start out by giving you an overview of the different types of volcanoes on Earth, because volcanoes are not all the same. And then we'll go on a tour of the solar system. But, you know, to start out, well, this is, of course, the solar system not to scale in terms of distance. But we find volcanoes in many places in the solar system, planets and moons, and the ones that are underlined are those where we have seen active volcanism, and includes several of the icy moons of the outer solar system, which have a different type of volcanism altogether. And probably some, or even many exoplanets, but you know, we only have some indications. So why are volcanoes in so many different planets? Well, volcanism is one of the 4 fundamental geologic processes, and on the surfaces of every solid planet and moon, it's really how the surface looks is an interplay of these major geologic processes, which are volcanism and tectonism. Those are what we call the endogenic or the internally driven processes, and then impact cratering and erosion, which are the externally driven processes or exogenic. And you see here, Meteor Crater in Arizona. Maybe many of you have been there. It's a fantastic place to visit. And in fact, some the Apollo astronauts were trained there. And here is what we call a lava fountain, which you see several in this talk, at Kilauea in Hawaii. And at the moment, it's really going. And here, example of mountains and erosion. So why does the surface of the Earth looks different from the surface of Moon and the surface of Mars? Is all this interplay between the geologic processes. And where do we find volcanoes on Earth? Well, here you see the tectonic plate boundaries in blue, The earthquake zones like California, hooray, in yellow, and active volcanoes, major active volcanoes in red. So of course volcanoes are located mostly on tectonic boundaries. And in the mid-Atlantic ridge, you have here where the plates are spreading apart at the same rate, more or less, that your fingernails grow. So it's slow, but it happens all the time. There we see many volcanoes, mostly underwater. In fact, most of the Earth's volcanoes are under the ocean. But they poke up now and then in places like Iceland. And then where the continent, where the plates collide, like along the, what we call the Ring of Fire around the Pacific, that's where you get a lot of volcanoes as well, but they are of a different type. So here are different types of volcanic activity. Geothermal activity you see in places like Yellowstone, which, again, many of you have probably been. Hawaiian and Icelandic activity, that's where you have some, fire fountaining, and they are generally very nice, well-behaved volcanoes that you can visit easily. And here is a lava lake in Africa, about 100 meters across, Ita Ali in Ethiopia, and I'm going to show another photo of that later. And then you have, as you go down this list, the activity becomes more and more explosive. So that means more and more dangerous. So a place, this is Mount Etna in Sicily, and then this one is Mount St. Helens, that many of you probably remember erupted in 1980 and killed a number of people. The volcanoes you want to visit are the ones on the upper part of the list. Hawaiian, Icelandic, Strombolian are nice. You get to Pelean, Vulcanian, Plinian, Ultraplinian, and no, you don't want to be around when they erupt. And these different types of activity also produce different landforms. So when we're looking at a volcano on a different planet or moon, we can already start thinking, hey, what type of volcano this is, what type of activity it is, and that's also connected to the composition of the magma. So Icelandic and Hawaiian volcanoes produce very long lava flows, produce like seas of lava. Shield volcanoes, you find those, as we're going to see, on Mars. And strombolians form small cones. And then the nastier eruptions will produce these steep cones, like Mount Fuji. And in fact, I remember being in Hawaii once, overlooking Mauna Loa, which is a shield volcano. And one of the tourists near me said, it doesn't look like a volcano. And that's because the idea that people normally have of volcanoes are of these steep-sided cones. So I mentioned that the type of volcano is also the type of activity is linked to the composition. So here you have basalt, and those the type of lavas that you find in Hawaii and Iceland. And as you get towards andesite, dacite, rhyolite, this lava is more and more sticky. So why are some volcanoes explosive and others not? The thickness, for those of you who are more into chemistry, is SiO2, or silicon dioxide, that forms very strong bonds. So when the magma is the lava that's under the ground, when the magma starts coming up, there are gases dissolved in the magma, and like a can of soda or a bottle of champagne is better, when you open it, these gases come out. If they can come out easily, like in the basaltic rock, that these bones are not very sticky, they just like whoosh out, and you get these beautiful lava fountains. As they get stickier, the magma is coming up and coming up, and the pressure builds and builds until it just explodes, and the magma gets obliterated to ash and small fragments. So that's why when you visit a volcano on Earth, which is another talk I like to give, you go to the basaltic ones. Like this, Hawaiian Icelandic eruptions. You know, absolutely beautiful. This is some lava in Hawaii going over a cliff or a pali. I know I have at least one person originally from Hawaii in the audience. You get lava fountains. You know, at the moment they have some on Kilauea that, you know, are like 100 feet high. You can get lava lakes or ponds, these ones in Hawaii too. And this is an aerial view of an eruption in Iceland, and that's a fissure and lava coming out from this fissure. It's something that we think happened on many planets. You start getting a little bit more explosive, and you get strombolian activity in the, this is one in the Aeolian Islands. So this type of activity is named after Stromboli volcano, which is one of the Aeolian Islands. And people who are really into films probably remember the movie Stromboli in the 1950s, a Roberto Rossellini movie that was actually filmed on the island. And here is my group on top of Stromboli. And it's very nice to look at night, and people hike up there and take their sleeping bags. I think you're not supposed to, but you know, people do. Kilauea can also have some strombolian activity, and this is recently in 1925. So it's like between a lava fountain and strombolian. It's not, it's just like a spectrum. But if you have a chance to go to Kilauea now, the activity has really been spectacular. And in fact, I keep asking myself, why am I not there? Because I'm too busy. Anyway, as I mentioned at the beginning of the talk, the archipelago of Vanuatu, that's where that introductory slide picture was taken. So the main island is this one, Etched, and its claim to fame is that it was in one of the first episodes of, I forget the name of the TV series, but that one where they put people in a really remote location and Survivor, right? You know, yeah. And actually I saw the really remote location, and it was just across a little bit, tiny bit of ocean from one of the best hotels. So it wasn't really that remote, but anyway, so I've been there a couple of times, and some years ago I was there to film a documentary with a Brazilian TV station, and also do some research with some colleagues. And we went to this island called Ambrium, and also to the island of Tana, which is where that Yazoo volcano is. So one funny thing about it is that, well, these islands are quite small. Ambrium had like a grass strip for the plane. You know, we were chartering a plane for equipment and then going on a regular commercial flight, which was very relaxed because, you know, from Vanuatu you can hijack a plane, but you can't really go anywhere. So they're very relaxed about security. And when flying back from Tana back to Port Vila, the pilots had flown us before, and the pilot said, "Oh yeah, is there anywhere on the way you'd like to see? For us to go?" And I said, "Yeah, can we circle the Azure volcano?" And he said, "Oh yeah, sure. It's not on our route, but we can go there." And he said, "And when we're over it, just come here to the cockpit, and we'll open the window, and you can take pictures." So that's where this picture here on the top right. This one is from the ground, but this one on the top right was from the plane, and this is an infrared image. We had an infrared camera as well. And I'll show you here this is Strombolian activity. So you can hear the whoosh of the gas, and you're quite safe as long as these small fragments that we call bombs don't actually fall outside the crater. That they sometimes do, and they did once when I was there. And strangely enough, there was a tourist who actually took that picture of me with my back to the volcano, and I realized I didn't have any pictures of me with my back to a volcano because I don't normally do that, and it was during that picture that there was this bigger explosion, and I felt the shock wave on my back. I immediately lapped up, and what do you do? What you do is that you look where these fragments are coming, and you actually don't run, but you get out of the way. You move to one side or the other if they're coming towards you. Yeah, I learned that as a student because my PhD advisor liked to send students to collect fragments. We're kind of expendable. Anyway, that's where I did a lot of my PhD work, Mount Etna in Sicily. It normally has milder activity than these Vulcanian explosions, but it can be very nasty. So Etna is like a trickster volcano. So deposits a lot of ash, and it's the ash that lands closer to the volcano that makes these cones, steep cones. And then there are Pelean eruptions named after Mont Pelée, Martinique. In 1902, there was an eruption with what we call a pyroclastic flow, and that destroyed the whole city of Saint-Pierre. Saint-Pierre used to be called the Paris of the Caribbean, and only one person survived, and he was in jail, and he was inside this jail cell, and he was burned, but survived, and so the governor pardoned him, and I guess yes, he deserved that, and then the prisoner of Saint-Pierre that some of you may have heard about, he came to the U.S. and toured with the Barnum and Bailey Circus. So that's Montserrat. In more recent times, had an eruption very similar, and I just wanted to show you a picture of a Pelean eruption. There's a helicopter right here that you can see flying, and this is a pyroclastic flow. A pyroclastic flow is a flow of hot gas and ash that essentially destroys anything in its path, and it's so light, or it can be so light that you see here is floating over water. And this is what killed people in Pompeii and Herculaneum. So you don't want to be anywhere around one of those, I think the biggest risk I ever took was to do some field work in this valley where some of these pyroclastic flows, had been, but we were monitoring the seismic activity, and it was okay. And then the very, very nasty eruptions, Plinian and Ultraplinian, that's Mount St. Helens in 1980. Again, and what was particularly bad here is that there was a lot of seismic activity, so the volcanologists knew that this was going to go, but nobody realized that instead of the column going right up, the explosion, it was going to go to the side. So that's why it caught some people unaware. So getting out to the planets, the moon. All these dark areas are very long lava flows, and similar to Icelandic activity, so they are seas of lava. And the early astronomers didn't know that they were lava, so called them mare, because they thought they were seas. And here's some images from Apollo. And so you can see here on the left this seas of lava, and even you can make out the edge of a lava flow. And in the middle is Hadri Rill, which is a lava channel. It's near where Apollo 15 landed. And so that's a collapsed lava channel. And there are some small cones and domes formed by some explosive activity, but you know, this whole image is 80 kilometers across, so they're kind of small. The moon had mostly this Icelandic, Hawaiian, or even more extreme activity that we don't have on Earth anymore, called flood basalts. So just like floods, the low-lying regions. Venus has some interesting volcanoes. There are shield volcanoes. Here is, well, I should explain that the only images we have of Venus are radar images, because Venus has this very thick cloud cover. So we sent a Magellan spacecraft there in the early 1990s, and it took radar data and altimetry data. So this was reconstructed, and it's a shield volcano with a lava flow in the foreground. And of course, these colors are artificial, you know, because the radar doesn't have color. So on the top is the image of a caldera, and at the bottom are some very strange volcanoes that got nicknamed pancake domes because they look like pancakes. And I am going to show you a painting here. I have this artist colleague called Michael Caro, and we have written like 3 books together. And he makes these wonderful planetary images. He paints them, talking to scientists, and you know, figuring out what this would look like. So here are pancake domes on Venus, what we think they look like. And how are these pancake domes formed? Well, they actually formed by very viscous, sticky lava. But why didn't it explode? You know, these are not shaped like cones, because there was very little gas in the lava. So if you go to Lassen Peak, for example, that's a volcanic dome. So it's high viscosity lava, but with little gas, so it didn't explode. So I mentioned at the beginning that we think that Venus has active volcanism. Here is another of those shield volcanoes. Just a few years ago, some colleagues of mine, one of them from JPL, reanalyzed data taken from the spacecraft in the early 1990s, and these 2 views are 8 months apart. And if you look carefully, there are changes. Now, these 2 views were taken from different angles with the radar. So this is very, very difficult to interpret. You know, you really need specialized, radar engineers. Because images from radar, there can be no change at all, but they can look different because of the different angles they are viewed at. And also at the time, they didn't have, at the time of Magellan, they didn't have the image processing capability we have now, so this work probably couldn't have been done before. But they noticed this change, this crater, which is not a crater, is actually a volcanic crater, became bigger. For example, this whole area changed, this is interpreted actually as a lava lake, which I'm going to talk about later. But we have, hopefully, another 3 missions going to Venus in the early 30s, one of them from Europe. Now, going on to Mars. Mars has the largest volcanoes in the solar system. This is like topography of Mars. It has, is more rugged in the south, has this hemispherical symmetry. The blues are lows, the reds are highs. And there are some really gigantic volcanoes. And this one, Olympus Mons, is actually the largest volcano in the solar system. So you see here 600 kilometers across and 26 kilometers high. And here is some topographic data of some of these volcanoes. Olympus Mons was the first volcano I studied for my PhD. And actually, if you look at the topography here, it has some very sort of rugged area forming an aureole around it. And that was my first project, was to figure out what that was. And what I worked out was that the volcano in the past, it has this scarp all around it that's several kilometers high, that, they had landslides from the scarp that formed this aureole material. And, how could these landslides have been triggered? Well, Mars has permafrost, ice in the subsurface. And if you have a renewal of volcanic activity, it can melt that permafrost. And here is a picture by Michael Carroll, volcanic eruption triggering a flash flooding, and this could cause landslides as well. So, of course, we have a lot of spacecraft around Mars, and we have had several roving on Mars. I think that nothing has been quite as exciting as the Ingenuity helicopter, which was designed at JPL as a technology demonstration. Yeah, unfortunately, I think it was like a year ago, or just over a year ago, it landed badly and one of its blades hit a sand dune, so it can't fly anymore. But still there, and it can still transmit data. So if the rover comes back near it, it will be able to communicate again. And we have a rover called Perseverance, or Percy, and it's collecting samples to hopefully bring back to Earth for analysis, because we can send powerful spacecraft and rovers to Mars, to other planets, but the laboratories we have on Earth, we can't send the whole lab to another planet. So here, I just want to show you the path since this rover landed. And there is a scale there at the bottom. It's still going, still roving. and very healthy. The scientists working on this project get together and they say, well, let's go over here. We may be able to collect a very interesting sample here or there. So they discuss all the scientific value of going to different places. And the images it has taken are just fabulous. This is an image taken from orbit, but we have the path there. And hopefully we'll be able to bring the samples back. Okay. But now let's go to my favorite moon, Io. And yes, Dan is right. Apparently in Greek is something like Io. It's a world of many volcanoes, and it's a really strange moon. All these colors on the surface, these reds and yellows, and make it look like a pizza. And in fact, when it was first seen by the Voyager spacecraft back in 1979, the scientists started referring to it as the pizza moon. So I worked on the Galileo mission that was orbiting Jupiter and flying by Io in the late 90s, early 2000s. So this is an image taken with the camera. I worked with the near-infrared mapping spectrometer. And by the way, all like the olives on the pizza, the really black areas, are the areas where the hot volcanic activity is happening. And we figured that out from the data that I worked with, that I analyzed. So this is one of my observations showing that this is a thermal map at 4.7 microns, and the reds and yellows and white is where the instrument saturated. There was just too much for the instrument. Those are all active volcanoes, and that's where how I found those 71 volcanoes. Was actually in many even more distant observations with lower resolution, was comparing pixel by pixel, comparing with the camera image, and so that was a fun thing to do. And people in the team used to joke with me because I would send emails saying, oh yeah, I found another hotspot, is what we call volcanoes. And one of my colleagues said, you should be on the Guinness Book of World Records. You know, you found so many. And you know, so that became a bit of a joke. And then eventually I got a postdoc who came from England, and he heard that joke. And he said, oh, I have a friend who works for the Guinness Book of World Records. I should tell him about you. And then the guy investigated and wrote to my colleagues and all that, and that's, so I'm only in one book in 2006, but that was cool. So why is Io so volcanically active? It's the most volcanically active object we know in the solar system. That's because it's in a very peculiar orbit. Of the Galilean satellites, this is an image taken by Voyager, and it's a composite. So it's not they're real images, but they are put together to show where these moons are. So here you have Jupiter, of course, very big, strong gravitational pull. You have Io, is the first of the Galilean satellites, then going further out, Europa, Ganymede, and Callisto. And these moons are synchronized in their orbits. So what happens is Io has a tidal bulge. It's like tides on Earth, but are in the crust that points towards Jupiter because, you know, Jupiter exerts this strong pull. You know, and if the other moons weren't there, that's all that would happen. There would be no volcanism at all. It would just have this bulge pointing towards Jupiter. But because of these other moons, also attract Io, have a gravitational pull, you know, a lot less, but they are closer, then they pull this tidal bulge towards them, And so it's this friction that is caused in the interior that keeps the interior hot and molten. And this, by the way, was predicted before the paper came out, like 2 weeks before the Voyager spacecraft flyby of Io that found the volcanoes. And it was an analysis by 3 scientists specializing in orbits and interactions. And they said that widespread and recurrent volcanism might occur. And I think this is one of the best predictions ever. So here are how were the volcanoes found? Well, the scientists looked at the images and thought, oh, this looks really strange. Those colors are probably sulfur, which is what you find around volcanic areas. They hadn't seen any evidence of actual active volcanism. But then a navigation engineer found these 2 plumes, volcanic plumes, in this image. At first, she didn't know what it was, but started talking to people and they figured it out. And it's kind of not a nice image because this was taken just for navigation purposes, not for science, but the volcanoes were found. And the Loki volcano, this is a Voyager took this image as a caldera, and everything that's black is hot. And then Michael Carroll did this view of the interior. It's a 200-kilometer wide caldera. Caldera is a big volcanic crater, and that's the biggest caldera in the solar system. And then with Galileo, we found something else interesting. So here's Loki. Here's an image from Galileo, which is Galileo didn't get close enough to get good images. But with NIMS, we started noticing that this image is like 2.1 microns, that the edges of this caldera were hot. And this is a part in the middle that's like an island and is cold. So you see the hotter materials are near the edge. And this happens on lava lakes, like this one in Hawaii. And why does it happen? Because lava cools very quickly when it comes to the surface and forms a cool crust. But the material underneath, it's still molten because lava is actually a very good insulator. So it starts sloshing around, and where the crust meets the caldera wall, it breaks. So it starts forming that hot edge. And here is another, the camera took this image at night that we also think is the edge of a lava lake. And then Juno spacecraft is around Jupiter now, and this movie is just, has some artistic license, but it's just to give you an idea of what this strange caldera looks like. And here is another nice one, same thing, a cold area in the middle, hot edges, and as I told you, everything that's black is hot, and you can see here as the crust hits this island, again it breaks up and it gets hot. And this is, I think, one of the most beautiful images of Io ever taken, and I was proud that I was able to suggest the name Tupan. The convention for Io is the features get names of gods and heroes that have something to do with volcanoes, thunder, fire, and Tupan is the Brazilian native god of thunder. So they accepted that name, and since then I have become a member of the nomenclature committee, and I'm the chair of the outer planets, so I do see a lot of requests coming through. And this is Michael Caro's painting of the interior of Tupã, and these areas that are green and red are all sulfur, sulfur probably molten from the walls and coming down. And the Juno spacecraft more recently took lots and lots of images showing this, what the Italian investigator, principal investigator of the infrared instrument called lava rings, and he emailed me and said, we see these lava rings and hot rings, and I said, yes, I know exactly what those are because I had done this work on lava lakes. So we found with Galileo, we were able to suggest a few lava lakes, but with Juno, we actually found many, many lava lakes. And I know I'm starting to run out of time. I'm just going to show you some lava lakes on Earth because they're so spectacular. So some colleagues and I did a trip to Etched in Ethiopia, in the pretty wild region called the Afar region. And I have to say, we did not do this officially because the safety concerns would have been too high, so we took vacation. Yeah, and sometimes you have to do that. And here I am with another colleague, so this was some of our path, and we camped, and it was really hot. It was pretty miserable, and but finally got to the lava lake. This image is not mine, was taken by a colleague of mine, but this is a really spectacular lava lake. And my colleague Janie Radebo, who was with me, took this video. This is the wall, so you can see how the lava is breaking up against the walls. And that's, and that's what happens. So the lava underneath is still molten. Anyway, we took some infrared measurements. So these are in Celsius. I should have had the scale there, and actually published some of this. Vanuatu in the Pacific, where we went on this other field trip, has a pretty spectacular lava lake. So that's several colleagues of mine. We are trekking to the top of Umbrian Island, where there is a lava lake. And this is about 100 meters down, and it's quite spectacular. This is a different type of lava lake because it's much more boiling than the one on Etched, for example. So for several, like you saw in Hawaii, Etched, the crust would mostly be cool with hot edges. But this one, it's like everything is hot. And here is an infrared image. That really shows you it really boils. I am pretty much out of time, so I think we're just going to stop here. There are ice volcanoes in the solar system as well, but I don't want to go on too long and delay your picnic. So here is Io, and here is Europa. So this was taken by the New Horizons spacecraft on its way to Pluto. And this is one of the eruptions on Io, one of the plumes. And this is Europa, where we have some ice volcanoes. And we have a spacecraft on its way to Europa at the moment called the Europa Clipper that launched last year. And I'm sure we're going to have many spectacular results when it gets there in about 2029, 2030. So I can answer some questions, and thank you so much.